When I was 8 years old, the only thing that I really needed to be happy was a DS Lite, a copy of Mario Hoops 3 on 3, and then the blissful ignorance that adulthood was not going to come along and ruin everything. Now I'm 25 and I have hemorrhoids. But I also have adult money, and not that much adult money because I'm actually living with my parents right now, but I have a little bit of change here and there. And what I do with this extra money is chase down that feeling of being a free-spirited child by buying retro handhelds. There are so many ways to enjoy these things, and as someone who's been buying this stuff since the Superboy came out, I might be in a little bit too deep at this point. So right now I want to share my experiences, my passion, and genuinely just why I love retro handhelds so much. There's something to be said about the process of getting older and just craving more simpler times and trying to re-spark that inner child in you. And retro handhelds can be such a big help in this area. Every time I get a new device or even pick up one of my favorites, I just get filled with nostalgia and pumped to the brim with this limitless potential of being able to play all of my favorite games, but in one single system. Of course, I usually spend dozens of hours setting everything up and organizing all of my games and not actually playing the games, but that's a topic for another video. Now, a lot of people will see a retro handheld and just say, well, why don't you just play in the original console? Why don't you just play it on the OG handheld? And clearly these guys know nothing about modern consumerism. It's not just about playing the games, it's about having something new and shiny in my hands at all times. No, but seriously, the original console argument is very outdated at this point. I mean, have you seen a Game Boy Color screen? Have you looked at a 3DS? That one always pisses people off for some reason. Dude, the DS Lite has a better screen than the 3DS. I'm just gonna say it. The 3DS top screen sucks. Most original handhelds don't actually hold up today the way that you remember. It's either because they don't have a backlit screen or the resolution was just literal potato quality. If anything, this delusion of only playing the original systems is just a recipe for sadness. Retro handhelds are nice little band-aids for us adult toddlers experiencing some growing pains, and they do my favorite thing, which is merging modern tech, which I love and hate at the same time, with the controls and layouts of things that I'm very familiar and nostalgic to. How does this not spark something inside of you? It's beautiful. Seeing your favorite games remastered on modern hardware is always an incredible experience. I will forever mention Mega Man Battle Network in every video because this is one of, if not my favorite video games of all time. And part of that is because of the beautiful pixels and the way that everything looks. The sprite work in this game is my favorite. And with retro handhelds, I get to re-experience all of this, but in a modern screen that still has some nostalgic controls. And yes, there is a point that none of these things will look as good as a CRT, but if you're on that side of the fence, I would recommend watching my last video. I drove 2 hours to pick up a CRT, okay? I love CRTs, but we truly are getting to a point with shaders and BFI where it looks really good, man. I would say the biggest hiccup and W that CRTs will always have, at least for the time being, is the response time and the latency. There's still a little bit of input delay, it feels like, on every single retro handheld. So if you're sensitive to that, yes, the CRT will win. There's also the insane aspect of playing retro home console systems in a portable form factor. Most of us remember playing GameCube, PS2, Sega Genesis, N64, SNES, all on a bigger screen, and it was a home console. But now, it fits in your pocket. And we have reached a point where all of this retro handheld stuff is possible to do even in your smartphone. However, there's one small problem, and it's the fact that your phone is not a... To a lot of people, this sounds really dumb, but I genuinely dislike having my smartphone on me or near me most of the time. Every time I look at this thing, I just get overwhelmed. The notifications, the dopamine traps, the mental association that I have with all of the garbage that I've seen on social media. Just having this thing in my pocket immediately boosts my anxiety, and I can feel it. Now, I'm not saying I want to quit tech forever. In fact, I actually really love tech, and I've built this whole YouTube channel about technology. But my goal here is to find devices and things that bring me joy and heal my relationship that has been destroyed by my cell phone. And I know it sounds so ridiculous and stupid, but I'm telling you, I actually think retro handhelds, even though they're another screen, are the bridge back to peaceful existence with technology. Since most of these are intended to be played offline, we can now engage with tech in a way that's fun, nostalgic, and it doesn't pull you out of the games you're playing with distractions or even the option to go on social media and doom scroll or do whatever it is that you want to do on your smartphone. I'm not judging. I've done some vile things on my phone. Offline gaming and reconnecting with these retro games is seriously so relaxing to me, and it brings me so much more peace, not only with my ability to connect with my younger self and replay some games that I don't really remember as well, but also to just sit down and relax and enjoy some time alone and literally have a little bit of leisure before I go back to the digital world where I'm constantly connected. Most of these handhelds can connect to the internet, but odds are you're not going to be using social media or anything that's a little bit too distracting and reconnects you with the digital world, unless you're like using Instagram on your Retroid Pocket 5, which I've got so many more questions for you if that's the case. Most people just use the internet connection to have retro achievements, which is sick. So if you haven't tapped into this world, please do so. But otherwise, they're relatively offline. Most modern handhelds or PC gaming handhelds look the exact same, and we can thank the Switch for that, even though it was very revolutionary. We're just getting a bunch of Switch lookalikes at this point. The retro handheld scene, on the other hand, is completely different. One week it's a modernized GBA, and then the next week it's this disgusting, diabolical folding mechanism that looks like a 3DS and a DS had a baby with an alien. And I love it. Oh, you like fighting games and want a handheld that has 6 buttons for whatever reason? Here you go. Oh, you want to play some DS games? Well, now we have an entry-level device for those games. And if 3DS is your favorite game, you hate the 3DS. Every month we get something that's new and exciting, that's pushing the scene forward with really weird and wacky looking designs, and it's just so fun to see what's going to get released next and what form factor will be put on the chopping block in the future. There's always new and fun ways to experience retro games. Just the other day I saw this post on Reddit that blew my mind. This man was rocking a dual streaming setup, so he had one instance of Wind Waker streamed to his main display, and then he had another instance that was streamed to his retro handheld that had the Tingle tuner, which was originally designed for the GBA. So this man literally created the greatest way to experience Wind Waker, which is such a niche thing, and I am in love. This is why I love the scene so much, for things like this. The community and the support around all of these retro handhelds is insane. Because of the hard work of all of these creative and amazing people involved, you can customize these devices however you want. Custom wallpapers, alternate front ends, even swapping out the entire operating system itself. I've turned a bunch of my handhelds into Pokemon themed devices because this is one of my favorite video game franchises of all time, but this is literally just one example of the many different things that you can do here. Now, if it's Android based, it's very dependent on the front end that you're using. There's a lot of different options here like Daigisho, ESDE, or my personal favorite, Beacon. And these front ends let you do different things like scraping the game art, organizing your systems and your games, letting you change the wallpapers, or my personal favorite, which is adding menu music. These front ends aim to give you a console-like experience, even though it's just running Android. And it's actually kind of amazing how much these transform a device from a messy looking Android phone with crappy built-in controls to a genuinely polished looking handheld. Now, another thing I'd like to add here that does contradict a lot of what I said earlier about single-use devices is the fact that you can do so much more with a retro handheld, especially if it's running Android, than just playing games. Not every handheld is good for it, but the Flip 2 perfectly fits in your hand and can be used as a Kindle. This is stupid looking at first, and you have to see through the veil of just me being an idiot, but I'm telling you, it kind of works, dude. The Flip 2, you could put your hand on the left side and then it acts as a nice little Kindle. You're using the D-pad to change the pages. Most devices aren't really good at being Kindles, but almost every single Android handheld that I have tested is fantastic for things like Anki that let you study flashcards and actually try to learn with a device that makes it feel like you're playing video games, but you're actually just memorizing some words. This can be great for learning a language, and you could use a retro handheld as a dedicated media device if you just want to strictly use this thing for I don't know, consuming the internet. It's kind of like the opposite of what I was saying. Maybe this could be your one device to stay connected and then leave your phone mostly offline. There's so many different options and ways you can form and make a retro handheld unique and custom to you. Now, clearly you can tell that I love these little things and have a horrible, just painfully addicting consumerism problem. But even I am not ignorant and blind to the many, many issues that we have with these things. Handhelds get released all the time, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because it fuels competition and creates more innovation. But at a certain point, you know, I don't really think we needed 40 different renditions of the same handheld, but one of them had an added thumbstick. It's not rare for us to see the design and build quality of these things start to break over time. Maybe the hinge breaks, maybe the screen goes bad. Something usually arises, and when it does, it's almost like a plague that just spreads, and you start to see thousands of other handhelds breaking at the exact same time. I personally never had a problem with customer support, but then again, I don't abuse my devices like some people, or I've just gotten pretty lucky. But even with this long list of issues and problems, I still find myself not only hopeful for the future of retro handhelds, but also more in love and happy with just this amazing community. I find it really hard to find a balance between encouraging people to dive into this hobby, but also not buying 400 different handhelds, and eventually it's all just going to end up in the ocean and create this e-waste island. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But despite the bumpy road that it can tend to be, I love gaming handhelds in general, and I'm sure with retro handhelds specifically, I might have missed a few things. If you use these for any other reason than what I mentioned, please let me know. I'm curious what kind of disgusting, vile setups you guys have. The tasteful combination of modern tech and nostalgia and a passionate community is exactly why I love retro handhelds. Oh wait, there's actually one more thing that I forgot to mention that's a pretty big problem when it comes to all of these retro handhelds, and it's the fact that no matter how much money you spend, no matter how many different form factors you purchase, no matter how many hours you meticulously put into setting up every single individual device, none of it will ever fill that deep, aching, impossible to reach void in your soul that just wants to go back to when you were 8 years old, laying on the carpet with your Game Boy, blissfully unaware of bills, global politics, or the slow creeping decay of your own body. All right, I'll see you guys next week.
Only figure that I pursue in these past years, the one that come with commas and handled by cashiers. My vision tends to fade, but it's crystal when check clears. My ego